Hi, everybody. Welcome back to our latest episode of Tech Talk. I'm here with Suzanne TenBroek. She's a French teacher at Walnut High School. So, Suzanne, why don't you go ahead and take a second and tell us a little about yourself and how you ended up at Walnut High School.
Hello, everybody. Let's see. I have been teaching now for, oh, yikes, I don't want to think about that. But I started teaching public high school in 2001. I was at Warren High School for a year, actually teaching French and German. And then I was done with teaching German because that's not my passion. I then went to Gar High School in Cerritos, went on maternity leave when my son was born, and stayed home for 2 years. The job opened up at Walnut. I interviewed, and here I am, and I've been here now since, oh gosh, what is it, 2016. So a few years.
Okay, so before we get to technology, you taught German. So are you, I don't want to say fluent, but can you speak French and German?
Fluent. Well, I like to say that I'm fluent in French in most situations. Like if you asked me to deconstruct a computer in French, I couldn't do that because I don't know all the specialized vocab. But I can hold my own, obviously, in French. I have a master's in French literature. And in German, I'm super rusty. I taught German because I was basically a colleague of mine in the master's program called me up. He's like, hey, you speak German, right? I said, yeah. And he's like, well, we've got an opening at my school for a French and German teacher. He's like, honestly, don't care about the German. You want to come teach French? I'm like, sure. So I went and interviewed, the shortest interview of my life. And the principal's like, well, you want a job? I was like, all right, sure. Why not?
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so we've been in distance learning since last March. So for a world language teacher, and for you in particular, what was that transition like, going from day to day, you're seeing your students, to we're over Zoom and Google Meets?
That was a little bit rough, I think, mainly because of the way we ended. It was so sudden. March 13th was, we didn't even really know before the end of the school day. Like we all saw it coming and then it happened. It was like, what do we do? So I'm a part of quite a few Facebook groups for what's called comprehensible input teaching. And a lot of people were sharing slideshows that they were doing with their students when they had to go into distance learning. And it involved all sorts of different things, listening and reading and, writing. So I was like, I'm going to borrow some of these and kind of tailor it to myself. And that seemed to work the best for me. I don't want to say that I was successful, but I felt okay-ish in Panic Spring. But I think now I'm feeling a lot more confident.
So speak to a little bit more about that. You ended the school year. You knew we were coming back in some sort of distance learning mode. You did some things, some, I don't know, classes, but you did some, what are those called? In-services, I guess? I don't know. Can you talk a little bit about those programs you kind of did over the summer and how that helped you prepare for the fall?
Absolutely. So I saw the writing on the wall and I was like, it'd be nice that we get to go back in person, but I had no faith that that was going to happen. And through my connections with the Occidental College World Language Project and LA Stars, two of my colleagues through LA Stars, which we present professional development to other language teachers, were presenting on technology. One of them's the ed tech coach at her school. And the other one, that's part of what she does. I don't think she's in the classroom anymore, but she does a lot of ed tech stuff. They were both offering courses. And I said, hey, can I sit in on your classes to learn how to do this? And I spent about, gosh, I want to say 40 or 50 hours this summer getting trained. So, yeah. So I could do my job as a French teacher.
So through those courses, and you start the school year, what kind of things have you added into your arsenal of teaching?
For me, it was more about finding a way to connect with the students, because I feel like that's something that's honestly one of my strengths when I'm live, and I didn't know how I would be able to do that online. So I decided that I was going to try to connect with the students first. So one of the things I learned was thin slides, which is when you give a kid a slide in a slideshow and then they present themselves. Just a quick 20, 30 second, hey, tell me something about you. And we did that on the first day of class, and I think it went pretty well. And then I can also use that for, vocab. I can have the kids basically do a slideshow for vocab words I give them, and then I don't have to do all the work, which is good. It's like I'm farming out my vocab, so I don't have to do all the searching myself. I practice a little bit with Nearpod and Pear Deck. I don't feel super confident with either one of those. I think that's something I want to work on for second semester. I've been using Flipgrid with my students. I started that actually back in the spring because I thought it would be really helpful to get them to practice speaking. It was originally for my AP kids because I needed a way for them to practice speaking. And then let's see, what else have I done? I don't know. There's a lot of stuff. I dabble in stuff, but I'm trying not to branch out in too many directions because you get too much and then you just get overwhelmed and then you give up on everything. It's like going to the gym. You try to do too much too fast and then you just want to give up in the end.
Yeah, then you hurt yourself.
Yes.
So go back to Flipgrid, because as a math teacher, we always saw it as, oh, you get to see them talk through a problem. Okay, that makes sense. And then I read online where teachers were using it, foreign language teachers were using it in that capacity to where they're talking to them over Flipgrid. How's that been working out, and how have the students been adjusting to that?
I think it's gone pretty well. It's a little bit more intimidating for my French 1 kids because, I mean, they're totally new, not only to high school, most of them, as they're freshmen, but to me as a teacher. So I think it's hard to get a feel for someone when you don't meet them live. So what I've had them do is just kind of a quick introduction, like, hi, my name is this, but in French. I'm this many years old. This is when my birthday is. And so I've done like little stuff like that with them. Whereas with my upper level kids, my French 3s, what I had them do was read an article on a current event. It's a subscription that I bought on Teachers Pay Teachers through, it's like news from around the French speaking world. And there's 4 articles every month and it's at their level. So they read it, and then I had them kind of give a quick summary in their own words in the article in French, and then give their opinion. How do they have a personal connection with that article? Like one of the articles was about the second confinement they had in France. And so they had to kind of relate, oh yeah, I've been living that, basically since March. And for my upper level kids, my AP kids, I have them do practice on like their cultural comparison. So I give them a topic, and then they have 5 minutes to plan and then 2 minutes to present, a French speaking culture and their own home culture, whatever that may be. And they have to compare and contrast on the topic.
Nice. How you use Zoom or Meet, whatever, some sort of, or do you utilize breakout rooms in your classes, or?
I do, yes.
Can you kind of talk a little bit about that? Because I would think for foreign language, getting them to talk to each other would be kind of important.
Definitely. And I think it's a little tougher at the lower levels because you're having kids get together in a room. They may not know each other. So having them work in pairs in level 1 is a little hard just because sometimes they don't know each other. So I did a Google form like, hey, do you know anybody in class, or is there anyone you feel comfortable working with particularly, so they could let me know. But lower levels, I have them, they might read something together, like practice or reading together, and then kind of talk about it in English, which is fine. For the upper level classes, same kind of thing. And then for my AP class, what I'll do is I'll give them, okay, read this, and then answer these questions, talk about it in French with your partner. And at that point, all those kids know each other. And then I pop between rooms, answer questions, and it seems to work pretty well. And I've heard I could supposedly open multiple windows and be in multiple rooms at the same time, but that seems super confusing right now.
What I go back to, you were a wealth of information for our school at the beginning of the year, which we appreciate. You gave a lot of good tips. Is there anything else you want to share, what you're doing in the class right now, or?
I think for me, the most important thing is just being organized. I think the students appreciate that, mainly because of the fact that, they have, 5, 6, some of them have 7 classes, And if we're not organized in our Google Classroom, it's a source of frustration for the students because they don't know where to find things, or they're not quite sure what to do. One thing I do is I put my agenda on a Google slide every day before class, so they know what it is we're doing. And like I can actually share that with you. Hold on, I'll see if I can do that here. This one, I think it is. Yes, here we go. Okay, so, hold on. Is it working?
Yeah, I see it.
Oh, okay, weird, because I don't see it. But anyhow, that's no fun. So as you can see, like this is my, see, now I can't see this. This is driving me crazy. I feel tech ridiculous in Google Meet because I don't use it. But that's what I do. And then the next slide, which if I could see it myself, I would show you. Let's see. Here we go. So here I've got my agenda, and it's in the target language. And yes, I jumped on the Bitmoji bandwagon just because of the fact that I needed something to entertain myself. So like this is for French 1, and every day we talk about the date and the weather in French, and I ask for volunteers. And then we kind of reviewed some of our prior vocab. I give them a break in class. Here we do a reading, because I did something called a movie talk where I sort of narrate a short film. And then today we ended with a song. So, and our song was the French version of Jingle Bells, which has nothing to do with bells jingling at all in French. It's kind of crazy, but there you go. So, but for me, yeah, it's all about being organized because it helps save my sanity, and it also helps the students a lot as well. And then they know what to expect. And then after class, I always post my slideshows for the students so they can go back and look at all the stuff that we did in class.
Oh, that's really good. So obviously you've done a lot from where you were in the spring to where you are now. How do you think, like, COVID's been a horrible thing for everybody, but how do you think this has made you a better teacher?
Prior to this, whenever we had to involve technology in a lesson, I was always the person I was like, oh God, what am I going to do? Because still, for me, language acquisition is a process. You need another human being to actually have it happen properly. But I think it's made me a better teacher in that now I'm actually using Google Classroom, which I never used before at all. I didn't see the point. I still prefer grading actual paper, like in my hands. It makes reading an essay so much more pleasant. But, and I think there's a lot of things that I can do with technology. I do like Flipgrid. I think it gets the students speaking. And when they're in their own environment, they feel a little bit more comfortable doing it. I even had students in the spring, like, take me on a tour of their neighborhood and narrate it in French. So that was kind of cool. So I think I'll involve more technology when we go back to the classroom. I don't know that I'll be as hardcore with it as I am right now because I still like my old style, but I'll definitely involve a lot more of it.
So one thing that we like to do here is we also like to kind of share our obviously we all do a lot of good things, and sometimes we mess up. Some teachers are afraid to maybe take steps because they're like, oh, I'm going to mess up. Would you mind sharing like a time or like a failure you had when using technology?
Oh, let's see. Forgetting to put the sound on when I'm sharing a video that I want my students to listen to. That happens. I mean, that I would say probably once a week at least. Having the wrong slide show up at the wrong class. Forgetting to change the dates on the slideshow because one of my French 1 classes is Monday, Wednesday. The other one's Tuesday, Thursday. And just feeling like an idiot with that. Posting stuff in the wrong classroom. Posting the wrong stuff in the wrong classroom. It's a never-ending supply of fun, honestly. So I make a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, and that's what the one thing I try and tell teachers is I made mistakes because I had a set of Chromebooks and I would always post the wrong notes. I'd post like Algebra 2 notes for my geometry class and be like, Mr. Winland, what is this? I'm like, oh, hang on. So eventually we're going to get back, whether it's this year or next year. But what are you looking forward to when we finally do get to be back on campus?
When we are finally back on campus, honestly, I look forward to actually seeing colleagues. I miss my colleagues a lot. I also miss interacting with the students in person. I feel like obviously the ones who are older, who are juniors and seniors, I already knew them. And I really don't feel like I've had a chance to get to know the freshmen at all. This doesn't seem like the best way. And I miss classroom interaction because conversations on Zoom are basically between two people. You can't have a group class discussion and hear everyone's opinions at the same time. It takes exponentially more time. So I look forward to actually getting to use class time, I think, more effectively.
Last question. This is sort of the get to know you question. Over the past year that I've gotten to know you, you've shared that you are living with a huge Star Wars fan. So what is your favorite Star Wars movie out of the original, the 9? We won't touch the other ones that are on Disney right now, but just the original 9 movies.
Of the original 9, well, 1, 2, and 3 are utter travesties. They should not have been made, especially number 1. The only good thing to come out of number 1 was Darth Maul. Everything else was just garbage. Honestly, I'm an Empire girl. I think that's the best one story-wise. And it's nice because the good guys don't win. And that's not, reality is the good guys don't always win. So, I mean, granted, yes, the good guys win in the end. But yeah, of the original, I would say Empire. Obviously, Episode 4, A New Hope, that comes in second. Return of the Jedi has a special place in my heart because I actually got to see that in the theater, and I remember it because my uncle made us leave because we stayed for the first few minutes, but the sound wasn't on. And I remember he's like, no, we're not staying for this. I'm like, but I want to watch the movie, Uncle Bill. So we ended up having to leave, and I ended up going a second time when the sound worked. But yeah, that was one I actually got to see in the theater as a kid. So I like the original 3 are my favorite.
I actually, 3 is my favorite. I know it's in the dreaded prequel area, but I think it's just because of kind of what you said. It sets up, it ends on a super dark note, kind of like Empire. And yeah, I just like the story, even though that was the last movie I spoiled myself with. That I don't know. People online were releasing stills from like the movie, and so I'm watching it like, oh, I know what's going to happen next. And I wish I wouldn't have spoiled myself. That's a lesson for all you kids watching. Don't spoil yourself when it comes to movies. It's more enjoyable.
Exactly. And of those first 3, 1, 2, and 3 was definitely the better of those. But I can't even watch number 1. It's just...
Yeah, that I would agree with you on that. Okay, well, we could talk Star Wars for another half hour probably, and then everybody's gonna turn off the video. So we'll just end it here. Suzanne, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your information with everybody. We truly appreciate it. Everybody else, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.